The dark red wine dripped off the mahogany table and splashed onto my shoes. Megan stood over me, holding her empty glass with a tight little smirk. We were 20 minutes into her $15,000 engagement dinner, surrounded by her fiancé, Tyler's elite, high society family. She leaned down, her voice dripping with fake sweetness so the whole table could hear. Since you are so used to cleaning up garbage, be a dear and grab a towel. Brenda, our mother, let out a sharp laugh. She patted Tyler's mother on the arm. You have to excuse my oldest. She is just a blue-collar laborer. They do not teach manners and sanitation. The entire table chuckled. I looked down at the wine staining the floorboards. I picked the wood for those floorboards myself. I am the chief executive officer of the hospitality group that owns this private Charlotte club. They were mocking me in the very room I built, and they had absolutely no idea. I did not reach for a towel. I let the wine soak into the leather of my shoe, my face perfectly still. For a second, the smell of the roasted duck and expensive Pinot Noir faded, replaced by the ghost of drywall dust and cheap bleach. 7 years ago, I was working 80-hour weeks, scrubbing floors in a rundown bakery while trying to launch my first commercial cleaning business. I begged Brenda to co-sign a tiny loan to buy industrial supplies. She looked at me from her pristine living room couch, sipping her tea, and told me I was an embarrassment to the family name. She saved her money to buy Megan a luxury car for graduation instead. They broke my spirit back then. But today, I am sitting in a tailored blazer in the center of a multi-million-dollar empire, holding the hammer. The dinner progressed like a masterclass in toxic entitlement. Megan and Brenda treated my staff like absolute garbage. Megan snapped her fingers at the waiters, complained that the ambient lighting was washing out her complexion, and loudly boasted about how much money Tyler's family was spending on the wedding. Tyler sat next to her, nodding along. He was an opportunistic corporate climber, a junior vice president at a massive investment. The kind of man who measures human worth entirely by job titles and zip codes. He did not ask me a single question all night. Every time I tried to speak, Brenda cut me off, deliberately steering the conversation back to my little sanitation job to make Megan look like royalty by comparison. I sat quietly. I watched them play pretend in my kingdom. The manager walked by the table. He did not look at Megan. He did not look at Brenda. He made direct, subtle eye contact with me, giving a faint nod. 5 minutes later, the waiter brought out a tray of rare truffles. Compliments of the chef, the waiter said smoothly. Megan flipped her hair over her shoulder and turned to Tyler's mother. The chef follows my aesthetic page online. Megan boasted, people really appreciate a good influencer presence. I took a slow sip of my water. Their entire reality was a cheap illusion. They had no true power, no genuine wealth, and no real status. Their only currency was humiliation, and they spent it all trying to keep me beneath them. Then came the moment of absolute audacity. The waiter approached Tyler with the leather-bound checkbook, $15,000. Tyler reached for his wallet, but Megan placed her manicured hand over his. Put it away. Darling, she purred. She looked up at the waiter and waved him off. Just put it on the owner's tab. We are very close friends. Tyler's parents looked incredibly impressed. Brenda beamed with pride at her well-connected daughter. The audacity hung in the air. thick and suffocating. I set my water glass down. The ice clinked against the crystal. The silent endurance was over. I looked directly at the waiter. My voice was dead calm. Cutting through the chatter of the dining room, I am the owner, and their tab is declined. The silence that followed was absolute. All the blood drained from Brenda's face, leaving her pale and trembling. Megan's jaw literally dropped. Tyler blinked, looking frantically between the waiter and me. The waiter stood perfectly straight and nodded. "Yes, ma'am," he replied. I turned my attention back to my mother and sister. "I do not subsidize abusers." I said evenly, "Your club memberships are revoked, effective immediately. Please settle your bill so my staff can clear the table." Panic set in, forced to pay in front of her future in-laws. Megan hastily dug into her designer purse and threw down a platinum credit card. Brenda did the same. The waiter took them and returned 2 minutes later. Both cards were declined. Tyler's parents stared in absolute horror as the illusion shattered. Megan and Brenda were living entirely on credit limits and fraud alerts. I did not let them handle it quietly. I directed them to the front lobby. I made them stand near the coat check, calling their credit card companies on speakerphone, begging for limit extensions while Tyler's wealthy. Conservative parents watched in utter disgust. They were exposed. It should have ended there. But toxic people do not feel shame. They only feel vengeance. 1 week later, Megan struck back out of desperate greed. She thought she could outsmart me. She used Tyler's corporate lawyers to draft a formal demand for settlement, sending it straight to the parent hospitality group. Megan claimed a server assaulted her, spilled wine on her, and caused severe emotional distress. She demanded $100,000 in damages and threatened a massive public relations nightmare if the manager, me, was not fired immediately. She thought she was dealing with a faceless corporate bureaucracy. She thought she had won. She forgot who built the table. My chief legal officer walked the extortion demand directly into my corner office. I bypassed all the red tape. I did not call Megan to argue. I did not warn my mother because Megan made the fatal mistake of booking the reservation under Tyler's corporate card. She dragged his employer into her mess. My legal team drafted a $500,000 cease and desist, paired with a countersuit for tortious interference, defamation, and corporate extortion. We did not send it to Megan. We sent it directly to the compliance department at Tyler's investment firm, naming him as an accessory to fraud. We included Megan's signed written lie side by side with the silent, ultra high definition security footage from the private dining room. The video clearly showed Megan deliberately knocking the wine glass over herself and berating my staff. The fallout was catastrophic and instantaneous. Tyler was hauled into his firm's human resources office to save his own job and explain the massive liability to his superiors. Tyler was forced to show the silent security footage to the board of directors. His parents sat on that board. When they saw the unhinged, malicious behavior on that screen, they delivered an ultimatum. They threatened to cut Tyler completely out of the family trust and strip him of his vice president title if he married a public relations disaster like Megan. Tyler, a man who only ever loved money, dumped Megan over a 2-minute phone call. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Brenda. I answered, letting the line stay completely silent. She was hyperventilating. She did not call to apologize for the years of emotional abuse. She called because Tyler's parents had officially blacklisted her from the local country club. You have to fix this. She demanded her voice shrill with panic. Withdraw the lawsuit. Take the blame. Tell them it was a misunderstanding so the wedding can proceed. We are family. I listened to her frantic breathing for exactly 5 seconds. I am the owner. I replied quietly, and your tab is declined. I hung up the phone. I blocked her number. I blocked Megan's number. I left them trapped in the social exile they built with their own 2 hands. The compliance department at Tyler's firm launched a full internal audit. Tyler was placed on unpaid administrative leave for misusing corporate assets to facilitate a fraudulent legal threat. Megan faced a civil penalty of $45,000 to cover our legal fees. Forcing her to sell her designer bags and move out of her luxury apartment, Brenda became a ghost in her own neighborhood. Entirely ostracized by the wealthy social circle she worshipped, they lost their money, their status, and their reputation. 4 months passed. I was walking through the rooftop greenhouse of my flagship restaurant, surrounded by the smell of fresh basil and damp earth. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A voicemail from an unknown number. It was Brenda. Her voice was thin, tired, and dripping with manipulation. I am still your mother. She whispered, I did all of this to push you to be better. We miss you. Call us back. I stood there looking out over the city skyline. I did not feel a spike of rage. I did not feel the urge to scream or cry. I felt absolutely nothing. I hit delete. The hollow echo of her manipulation dissolved into the quiet hum of the greenhouse. I walked back down into the main kitchen. My staff was prepping for the evening service. The executive chef handed me a tasting spoon of a new reduction. A young hostess I was mentoring asked for my advice on a business plan she was writing. The air was warm, filled with laughter and mutual respect. This was my chosen family. These were the people who treated me with dignity when I had nothing, and they were the ones standing beside me now. I realized then that the chaos of my past was finally dead. The silence in my life was no longer a punishment. It was peace. If you are listening to this right now, I know exactly what you are carrying. People like my sister and my mother do not hate you because you are failing. They hate you because your success exposes the fact that their entire personality is a performance. When you build something real, it forces them to look at how incredibly hollow they are. I spent years shrinking myself to fit at a table that did not even respect me. I learned 3 vital rules the hard way, and I want you to write them down. Rule number 1, silence is not taking the high road. Sometimes it is just subsidizing their abuse. When you allow toxic people to disrespect you without consequence, you are funding their delusions. You must enforce emotional and financial boundaries with absolute precision. Stop paying for the privilege of being their punching bag. Rule number 2, you cannot reason with a false reality. You can only document it. Toxic people will gaslight you, rewrite history, and play the victim perfectly. Do not waste your breath arguing with a liar. The truth does not need to yell, it just needs receipt. Keep your records, hold your ground, and let their own lies trap them. Rule number 3, blood makes you related, respect makes you family. Society tells us we have to forgive toxic family members because we share a last name. That is a lie designed to keep you trapped in a cycle of abuse. You are absolutely allowed to cut off toxic DNA to protect your peace. Walking away is not a tragedy. It is a rescue mission. Are you shrinking yourself to fit at a table that does not even respect you? When you have the tools to build your own room, do not let guilt convince you to stay in a burning house. Let me know your story in the comments. If you have ever had to close the door on toxic family to protect your peace, drop a door emoji below. You are not alone. Keep building. Keep protecting your energy. Keep choosing yourself. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there thinking, why did she sit at that table for so long? Why did it take a $15,000 wine spill for her to finally snap? Let me decode the psychology of what you just watched. Because Rachel was not stupid. She was trapped in something called the slot machine effect, or intermittent reinforcement. When you grow up with toxic, narcissistic family members like Brenda and Megan, they do not treat you terribly 100% of the time. If they did, you would leave immediately. Instead, they give you tiny crumbs of hope, a rare compliment, a moment of normal conversation. Your brain gets addicted to the possibility of winning their love, just like pulling the lever on a slot machine. Rachel endured that dinner because the child inside her was still hoping this would be the day her mother finally saw her worth. The wine spill was the moment the machine broke, and she realized the game was rigged all along. Now, let us talk about the street-smart financial defense Rachel used because she executed a masterclass in survival. First, she used the audit strategy. Scammers and entitled abusers absolutely hate details. When Megan arrogantly told the waiter to put the bill on the owner's tab, Rachel did not throw a screaming tantrum. She stepped in, asserted her authority, and forced a financial reality check by declining the tab and forcing them to use their own maxed out credit cards. Rachel audited their fake lifestyle in real time. She stripped away their perceived status and forced them to literally pay for their own bad behavior. Second, she mastered the art of building the case. When Megan escalated the situation by filing a fraudulent extortion demand, Rachel did not call her sister to argue. Arguing with a narcissist is like wrestling a pig in the mud. You both get dirty. But the pig likes it. Instead, Rachel let Megan put her lies in writing. She gathered the written demand and paired it with the silent security footage. She built an undeniable, bulletproof case before she ever made her move. Finally, she executed the buyout. Rachel sent that $500,000 defamation lawsuit straight to the compliance department. She did not just attack Megan, she attacked the financial and corporate infrastructure, enabling her. She used the law to permanently sever the connection, investing her resources into buying her ultimate freedom. Blood does not make you family, loyalty does. You are allowed to walk away from people who hurt you, even if you share a last name. Trust is earned, not owed. If you are dealing with people who drain your energy and demand your silence, remember Rachel's strategy. Build your case, guard your assets, and do not be afraid to hand them the bill. If this breakdown helped you see your own situation clearly, subscribe to the channel for more real talk, and share your own survival strategies in the comments below. Stay smart and protect your peace. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there thinking, why did she sit at that table for so long? Why did she let her sister spill wine on her shoes and just take it? Why did she not kick them out the second they insulted her? Let me decode the psychology of what you just watched. Because Rachel was not stupid, and she was not weak. She was trapped in something called the slot machine effect, also known in psychology as intermittent reinforcement. When you grow up with toxic, narcissistic family members, they do not treat you terribly 100% of the time. If they did, you would leave immediately. Instead, they hand you tiny crumbs of hope, a rare compliment. A moment of normal conversation, your brain gets addicted to the possibility of finally winning their love, just like pulling the lever on a slot machine. Rachel endured the beginning of that dinner because the child inside her was still hoping this would be the day her mother finally saw her true worth. That wine spill was the exact moment the machine broke, and she realized the game was rigged all along. Now, let us talk about the street-smart financial defense Rachel used because she executed an absolute masterclass in survival. First, she utilized the audit strategy. Scammers and entitled abusers absolutely hate details. When Megan arrogantly told the waiter to put a $15,000 bill on the owner's tab, Rachel chose not to throw a screaming tantrum. She stepped in, asserted her authority, and forced a financial reality check. By declining the tab and making them use their own maxed out credit cards, Rachel audited their fake lifestyle in real time. She stripped away their perceived status and forced them to literally pay for their own bad behavior. Second, she mastered the art of building the case. When Megan escalated the situation by filing a fraudulent extortion demand, Rachel avoided calling her sister to argue. Arguing with a narcissist is like wrestling a pig in the mud. You both get dirty, but the pig actually likes it. Instead, Rachel let Megan put her lies in writing. She gathered the written demand and paired it with the silent security footage. She built an undeniable, bulletproof case before making a single offensive move. Finally, she executed the buyout. Rachel sent a $500,000 defamation lawsuit straight to the compliance department at Tyler's firm. She bypassed petty revenge and attacked the financial and corporate infrastructure enabling her sister's behavior. She used the law to permanently sever the connection, investing her resources into buying her ultimate freedom. And here's the part most people never talk about. The real victory was not Megan losing Tyler. It was not Brenda being embarrassed at the country club. It was not even the lawsuit, the declined cards, or the public collapse of their fake high-class image. The real victory was Rachel finally becoming emotionally unavailable to the people who had spent years feeding on her reaction. Because toxic people do not only want your money, they want access. They want the right to insult you and still be invited back. They want the right to break your heart and still call it family. They want the right to use your success as a resource while treating your pain like an inconvenience. That is why Brenda's final voicemail was so dangerous. It sounded soft. It sounded tired. It sounded like a mother asking for her daughter. But listen closely. There was still no apology, no accountability, no ownership, just another attempt to reopen the door Rachel had finally locked. And that is the trap. Sometimes the final test does not come as an enemy screaming in your face. Sometimes it comes as a weak voice saying, I miss you. Sometimes it comes wrapped in guilt, nostalgia, and a few carefully chosen memories from when things were not so terrible. But healing means learning to hear what is missing. Where is the apology? Where is the changed behavior? Where is the respect? Rachel understood something that took her years to learn. Closure is not always a conversation. Sometimes closure is deleting the voicemail. Sometimes closure is not explaining yourself one more time. Sometimes closure is walking into the kitchen you built, standing beside the people who respect you, and realizing your nervous system is finally safe. And maybe that is the lesson we all need to sit with. You do not have to keep proving your value to people who benefit from pretending not to see it. You do not have to bring your achievements to a table where love is always conditional. You do not have to keep auditioning for a family role that only exists when they need something from you. Build your own room. Build your own table. Build a life so peaceful that manipulation feels loud the second it enters. Rachel did not become cold. She became clear. She did not become cruel. She became unavailable for abuse. There is a difference. And the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will always call your peace a betrayal. Let them tell their version. Let them say you changed. Let them act shocked when the person they used to control finally stops answering. You are not responsible for maintaining the lie that kept them comfortable. You are responsible for protecting the life you fought so hard to build. So if this story hit a nerve, maybe it is because you know exactly what it feels like to be underestimated by people who should have protected you. Maybe you know what it feels like to be the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who always fixes the mess and still gets treated like the problem. But listen to me carefully. Being useful is not the same as being loved. Being tolerated is not the same as being respected. And being related is not the same as being safe. Rachel's story is not just about revenge. It is about release. It is about the moment a woman stopped begging to belong in a family system designed to keep her small. It is about the moment she stopped asking, why don't they love me, and started asking, why am I still giving them access to me? That question changes everything. So tonight, ask yourself this. Who still has a seat at your table only because of history, who keeps overdrawing from your peace and calling it family, who only remembers your name when they need your money, your labor, your forgiveness, or your silence. Blood does not make you family, loyalty does. You are allowed to walk away from people who hurt you, even if you share a last name. Trust is earned, not owed. If you are dealing with people who drain your energy and demand your silence, remember the strategy you saw today. Build your case. Guard your assets. And do not be afraid to hand them the bill. If this breakdown helped you see your own situation clearly, subscribe to the channel for more real talk, and share your own survival strategies in the comments below. Stay smart and protect your peace.